They say some moments change everything. Not in some dramatic, fireworks kind of way, but in quiet, ordinary moments that slip in when you're not looking. When your guard is down. When life feels numb, and you're just going through the motions, thinking nothing exciting could ever happen again. That's when it creeps in. That shift. That pull. I didn't know a simple offer in the kitchen would be one of them. Honestly, it started with a laugh. A spoonful of something sweet. I was barefoot, hair up, apron on, just another tired Thursday afternoon. The kind of day that blends into the last 20. Same dishes, same silence, same me. But then he walked in. David. My stepson. He was just visiting from college, staying a few weeks while his dad traveled for work. Nothing unusual, really. We'd always been close. Always had a kind of banter, like two people who understood each other in a house full of people who didn't talk much. But that day, something was different. He leaned against the counter, arms folded, and smiled at me like I was interesting. Like he was seeing me for the first time, not as his dad's wife, not as the woman who reminded him to take out the trash, but as someone else entirely. And when I turned to offer him a taste, just a spoonful of the custard I'd been working on, something in his eyes didn't move. He didn't blink, didn't laugh. He just stared. And then he said something so casual, so playful, I didn't even flinch. Only if you feed it to me. I smiled, rolled my eyes, brushed it off like a joke. But when I brought the spoon closer, he leaned in. His lips touched the metal, slow, deliberate. His eyes still locked on mine. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just about a taste. It wasn't just the custard. It wasn't the moment. It was the pause, the breath, the way I didn't move back, the way I let my hand linger just a second too long. I should have stepped away. I should have left. I should have said something, anything, to break the tension. But I didn't, because deep down, a part of me had been waiting for something to break the silence inside me. The kind that builds over years of being unseen, untouched, unheard. No, this wasn't about dessert. Not really. This was about something far more dangerous. Something unspoken. And I swear, the moment his eyes met mine, I felt the ground shift beneath me. The kitchen suddenly felt too quiet. The clock ticking on the wall felt too loud. And my heart, well, it hadn't beat like that in a long time. You ever have a moment that feels completely harmless on the outside, but something deep in your gut whispers otherwise? Yeah, that was this moment. And if you think you know how the story ends, trust me, you don't. Because what happened next? I still replay it every night in my head. And if I had the chance to go back and stop it, I don't know if I would. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold so you don't miss what really happened behind that kitchen door. Because this was only the beginning. I'm 43. That's not old, I know. But somehow, I feel like I disappeared a decade ago. Not all at once. It was slow, subtle, like watching the color fade from a photograph over time. My husband, Thomas, he's a good man. On paper, hardworking, dependable, predictable. But in real life, he's barely there. Even when he's home, it feels like he's somewhere else. Always on the phone, always tired, always distracted, always too busy to really see me. The kind of man who says thanks when you hand him dinner but never looks up from the news. We used to talk. We used to touch. I remember the way he used to hold my hand just because he felt like it. Now we sleep back to back. Two bodies in one bed, separated by miles of silence. Our meals are quiet. Our weekends feel long. Our conversations feel like transactions. And somewhere in all that stillness, I started to wonder if maybe I was asking for too much. If maybe this was just what marriage looked like after 20 years. Then David came home. He's Thomas's son from a previous marriage. I've known him since he was 10. I helped raise him, taught him how to cook scrambled eggs, packed his school lunches, stayed up with him when he had the flu. But this David, the one who walked through the front door from college, he wasn't the same boy I remembered. He was taller now, his voice deeper, his eyes sharper, more aware. There was something behind his gaze. Thoughtfulness. Curiosity. A quiet confidence that didn't ask for attention, but seemed to command it anyway. He was only staying for a few weeks while classes were out. I didn't think much of it. Just another visit. But from the very first day, I noticed something different. He listened when I spoke. Not out of politeness. Not the way most people do, nodding while looking past you. No, he really listened. He'd ask how my day was. Then he'd wait for the answer. He remembered the small things I mentioned, things even Thomas never bothered to notice. He'd pop into the kitchen just to ask what I was cooking. He'd offer to help carry groceries. He laughed at my old stories like they were brand new. At first, I told myself it was just kindness. That he was just a good young man being respectful. But part of me was starving for that kind of attention. And when you're hungry long enough, even a crumb feels like a feast. The house felt lighter when he was in it. I started looking forward to the sound of his footsteps, to the way he'd lean against the doorway and ask if I needed a taste tester, to the moments when it was just the two of us in the room, sharing stories or laughing over something silly. It was innocent, completely innocent. But there was something under the surface, something I didn't want to name, but couldn't quite ignore. It wasn't anything he said. It was the way he lingered when I spoke. The way he watched me when I thought he wasn't. The way I felt when I caught his glance from across the room. It was subtle, gentle, almost nothing at all. But after years of being invisible, almost nothing felt like everything. It was a Tuesday, late afternoon. The kind of quiet, still hour where the sunlight starts to lean golden across the kitchen tiles. Thomas was out meetings as always. I had music playing low in the background, sleeves rolled up, trying out a custard recipe I hadn't touched in years. It felt good to be focused on something. I was humming along to the tune when I heard the door creak. David. He stepped in without a word, leaned against the frame, and just watched me. There was a softness in his expression, calm, curious. I didn't turn right away. Just smiled over my shoulder and said, "You always come in here when you smell sugar." He laughed. "You always make it hard to stay away." I looked back at him then. He was wearing a plain white t-shirt. Hair slightly tousled, like he'd just gotten out of bed. But his eyes, those stayed on me, steady and unreadable. I held out the spoon. "Come on, taste it. Tell me if it's too sweet." He stayed where he was, arms folded across his chest. A slow smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Only if you feed it to me like a proper chef." I froze for a second. Just a beat. Then I laughed. Played it off. "Oh, so now I'm your personal baker too?" He didn't answer. He just walked over, slow and unbothered, until he was standing right in front of me. I lifted the spoon again, holding it between us. He leaned down, took it. Not quickly, not carelessly. Deliberate. Slow. His lips brushed the metal. He closed his eyes, just for a second, like he was tasting more than just custard. Then he opened them. Still looking at me. Not smiling now. Just holding my gaze. I laughed again, too loud, too fast, and turned away to rinse the spoon. But my hands were shaking, and the kitchen didn't feel the same. I told myself it was nothing. A silly moment. A joke. But for the rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way his eyes didn't move. The way he stood so still, like he was waiting for me to acknowledge something neither of us had the courage to name. That look. It wasn't from a boy. And I think I liked that. I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have noticed the way my skin tingled after he left the room. I shouldn't have found myself checking the hallway, hoping he'd walk back in. But I did. And the worst part? I didn't feel ashamed. Not yet. I just felt alive. Like someone had finally turned the light back on inside me after years of living in the dark. After that day in the kitchen, I started noticing things I hadn't let myself see before. The way David's laugh filled the room and softened the edges of silence that used to sit so heavy around the house. The way he lingered in doorways after our conversations ended, like he wasn't ready to leave yet. The way his eyes found me in a room full of people, like he was searching for a familiar face and maybe something more. And I hated how much I noticed. I hated that it made me feel good. I'd tell myself to stop, to keep my distance. But then he'd walk in with that same easy smile and a question about my day, and everything inside me would shift. There was a moment, small, barely a second, where we brushed hands while clearing the table. He apologized. I said it was fine. But my skin tingled for minutes after. Another night, he hugged me goodnight. Just like he used to. But it lingered. A breath longer. Just enough for me to feel his warmth and remember what warmth felt like. And that's when the voice in my head started getting louder. I'm his stepmother. I helped raise him. I've known him since he was 10. But then the other voice, the quieter one, whispered back. He's not a boy anymore. And I'm not dead inside. That part hurt to admit. But it was true. Because somewhere between the ignored birthdays and the one-word conversations with Thomas, something inside me started to fade. I remember one birthday, 2 years ago, when I waited all day for a call, a note, even a text. Nothing. I made dinner that night. Lit a candle for myself. He walked in, asked what was for dinner, then turned on the TV. Didn't even notice the cake. Didn't even ask why I looked tired. That night, I cried in the shower. Not because he forgot, but because I wasn't even surprised. Since then, I've been walking through life like a shadow. Moving, speaking, cooking, existing. But feeling? Feeling had become something distant. Something I used to do. Until David looked at me that way. And now, I didn't know what to do with the way my chest fluttered when he entered the room. Or the way I found myself changing shirts twice before dinner. Or how often I caught myself wondering what he was thinking when he looked at me. Was it kindness? Was it curiosity? Was I imagining it all? I watched him closely, trying to find answers in how he smiled at me. How he asked if I needed help with the groceries. How he lingered in the kitchen when he didn't need to be there. But I couldn't tell. Maybe I didn't want to know. Because what if I was the only one feeling this? What if I turned my hunger for affection into some twisted illusion? But then again, what if I wasn't? What if the silence between us wasn't silence at all, but something thick and unspoken, something waiting? The guilt would come in waves. I'd feel it late at night, lying in bed beside a man who hadn't touched me in months. I'd stare at the ceiling and ask myself who I was becoming. What kind of woman lets these thoughts take root? But then morning would come, and David would walk into the kitchen with sleepy eyes and a soft smile and ask if I slept okay. And I'd forget every promise I made to myself the night before. Because in those moments, those simple, stolen moments, I didn't feel like a wife. Or a mother figure. Or someone past her prime. I just felt alive. And I didn't know whether to feel grateful for that or terrified. The kitchen became our place. It always had been, in a way, but now it felt like a shared secret. A space suspended between what was allowed and what was felt, between routine and something else entirely. David started helping more, not just watching, but moving beside me. He'd chop while I stirred. He'd stand behind me to reach for ingredients, brushing past me with casual closeness that lingered just long enough to make me forget what I was doing. We cooked like we'd been doing it for years, like we knew each other's rhythms. He started bringing up new recipes, sending me links, printing out ideas he thought I'd like. He said it made him feel calm, being in there with me. I told him it made me feel seen. I didn't mean to say that last part out loud, but I did. He didn't laugh. He didn't change the subject. He just looked at me with something unreadable in his eyes and said, "Me too." That night sat with me. So did the way his hand brushed mine when we reached for the same spoon. Or how he started staying in the kitchen even after the food was done. Not saying much, just being near. One evening, Thomas was gone again, some overnight meeting in another city. David and I ate dinner alone. We had wine, not much, just enough to loosen the stiffness between us. The food was good. The laughter felt easy. After we ate, I brought out something new, a soft, creamy dessert I'd been working on for days. He raised an eyebrow. "You're spoiling me." I smiled. "Someone should." He tilted his head a little, watching me like he was trying to figure something out. Then he said, "You taste everything you make, don't you?" I nodded slowly. "Usually." He dipped the spoon in, held it up. But instead of tasting it, he moved closer and brought the spoon toward me. "Then taste this." I hesitated, but not for long. I leaned forward. My lips touched the spoon. His fingers were close, too close, brushing against mine as I took it. The taste was sweet, but what lingered wasn't the dessert. It was the moment, the silence that followed, the quiet that stretched out like a held breath neither of us knew how to release. His hand didn't drop right away. Mine didn't move either. Our eyes met, and something passed between us. It wasn't loud. It wasn't spoken, but it was real. He didn't step back. Neither did I. We both waited, not for a kiss, not for touch, but for someone to name what was happening, to call it wrong, to break the spell. But no one did. And in that stillness, I realized something. Whatever line we thought we were walking, it had already faded beneath our feet. It happened 3 nights later. The house was quiet. Thomas was out again, some late dinner with clients. I'd stopped keeping track. I was curled up on the far side of the couch, blanket around my legs, a half-empty glass of wine on the table beside me. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching, just letting the flicker of light distract me from the ache I couldn't name. David walked in without saying anything. He didn't ask to join me. He just sat down, closer than usual. Not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth between us. We sat like that for a while. Then, out of nowhere, he said softly, "You look sad tonight." I didn't answer. Not right away. Then I said it before I could think better of it. "I don't think anyone really sees me anymore." He didn't speak. So I kept going. "I mean, I do all the things. I show up. I clean. I cook. I smile when I'm supposed to. But some days, I feel like I could disappear and no one would notice." He turned to me. I'd notice. And it wasn't the words themselves. It was the way he said them, low, steady, sure. Like he wasn't trying to make me feel better. Like he just meant it. "I see you," he said again, his voice even softer. "More than anyone ever has." I looked at him. Really looked. His eyes weren't curious anymore. They were certain. And in that moment, the room changed. My breath caught. Not because I was surprised, but because a part of me had been waiting. We didn't move right away. We just stared. 2 people on opposite sides of a line we both knew we weren't supposed to cross, but already had, in every way that mattered. I should have stood up. I should have made a joke. Changed the subject. Created distance. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned in. Barely. Slowly. Like my body was moving ahead of my mind. And he didn't stop me. His lips brushed mine. Soft at first, uncertain, like he was giving me a chance to pull away. But I didn't, because in that single, stolen moment, I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel forgotten. I felt wanted. Alive. Real. And then it deepened, just slightly, breathless and warm, trembling and wrong in every possible way, and yet, I didn't stop. The kiss didn't last long, but what it left behind stayed. Because when we finally pulled apart, reality came rushing back in like a wave. I stood up fast. Didn't speak. He said my name, gentle, questioning, almost afraid. But I couldn't look at him. I just walked out of the room, into the hallway, into the dark, closed the door behind me, and leaned against it, shaking. My heart was pounding. My lips still tingled. My whole body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. I felt sick, alive, afraid, wanted, dirty, all at once. And worst of all, I didn't know if I regretted it, or if I'd been waiting for it all along. The next morning, he avoided me. I felt it the second I stepped into the kitchen. He was already there, pouring cereal, staring into the bowl like it held all the answers. He didn't look up when I walked in. Just gave a quiet morning without meeting my eyes. I nodded, tried to match his tone, pretended I didn't notice the way his shoulders stiffened when I reached past him for a mug. The silence between us felt thick. He finished eating in record time, rinsed his bowl, and walked out. No laughter, no casual banter, no light touches, just gone. Later that afternoon, Thomas came home. Suitcase in one hand, Bluetooth still in his ear, talking to someone about numbers I stopped pretending to care about years ago. He kissed my cheek like someone clocking in for work. Didn't notice the tightness in my smile. Didn't ask how I'd been. He walked right past David on the stairs and barely said hello. Business as usual. I tried to act normal. I really did, but I was off. Dropping things. Misplacing my phone. Asking the same question twice during dinner. My body was in the room, but my mind kept rewinding, playing last night in pieces I couldn't hold together. And David. He wouldn't even look at me. At one point, he walked into the living room where I was folding laundry. I could feel him standing behind me. Just standing there. Like he wanted to say something. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. He finally said, "Can we talk?" And I said, "There's nothing to talk about." He paused, then walked away. I felt the words echo in the room after he left. They sounded like someone else had said them. Someone colder, stronger. But I wasn't strong. I was just scared. A few days later, Thomas's niece had a birthday party, the kind of family thing I used to look forward to. I put on my best face, wore a dress I hadn't touched in months, painted my lips, curled my hair, told myself I'd smile through it. David was already there when we arrived. He was laughing with someone, a girl his age. Blonde, pretty, confident. The way she touched his arm when she joked made something twist in my chest. I watched them from across the yard. Watched the way he smiled at her. The way he leaned in. The way he looked so free. And I hated myself for how much it hurt. I turned away too fast and nearly knocked over a tray of drinks. I told myself I was being ridiculous. He was 19. She was beautiful. It made sense. But inside me, something cracked open. Had it meant anything to him? Was I just some passing impulse he regretted? Some fantasy he indulged because the moment made it easy? Because when I looked at him, really looked, I couldn't tell anymore. He never brought it up again. Not with words. Not with glances. It was like it never happened. Except it did. And I was the only one still carrying it like a secret carved into my skin. I started to wonder if he ever thought about it. If he replayed it like I did. If it kept him awake some nights. Or if he had already moved on. And if he had, what did that say about me? That I was just a moment. Just a mistake. Just nothing. It happened on a Sunday night. The house was quiet, not peaceful quiet. Just empty. Hollow. Thomas had gone to bed early. David was out somewhere, and I didn't ask where. I sat alone in the kitchen. Same chair. Same cup of tea. Same hum of the fridge in the background. But everything felt different. And I broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. My hands started trembling first. Then my chest tightened like it couldn't hold the weight anymore. And the tears came without warning. Not from my eyes, from somewhere deeper. Like something inside me had finally given up pretending. I covered my face and cried. For what I did. For what I wanted. For what I'd become. I thought about that night, the kiss, the stillness after, the silence that followed us both. I thought about David's voice. His eyes. The way he hasn't looked at me since. And suddenly I couldn't recognize myself. I'm a wife. A stepmother. I helped raise that boy. And still, I let something cross a line I swore I'd never even walk near. What kind of woman does that? What kind of mother figure craves the attention of someone she was supposed to protect? But then again, what kind of man leaves his wife starving? What kind of marriage makes you feel like a ghost in your own home? I started to wonder if I'd imagined the whole thing, if I was so desperate to feel something, anything, that I read into kindness and made it something it wasn't. Maybe David was just being sweet. Maybe the look in his eyes was just familiarity, comfort, not desire. Maybe I invented it all. But no, there was something in that moment. I know it. You don't hold eye contact like that over a spoon of custard and call it nothing. You don't brush fingers. Lean in, kiss, and then just pretend it was the wind. Still, it haunts me that I don't know what it meant to him. Because it meant too much to me. And now I don't know how to move forward. I've thought about telling Thomas. Just blurting it out. Letting the whole thing collapse and finally breathing in the wreckage. But I can't. It would destroy him. It would destroy David. And, maybe worst of all, it would destroy me. Not just my image, but the tiny, flickering piece of me that felt alive for the first time in years, even if it was wrong. Even if it can never happen again. I've thought about leaving, packing a bag, disappearing for a few days, finding space to think without their eyes on me. But then I wonder, what if I'm the only one still thinking about it? What if he's moved on? What if to him it was a moment, a mistake, and nothing more? What if I'm the only one haunted by it? The only one still running that night over and over in her head like a broken film reel? That thought hurts more than anything else. Because it would mean I wasn't even a mistake worth remembering. Just something that happened. Just something that passed. And maybe that's what I deserve. Have you ever crossed a line and then questioned if the line was ever really there? Or worse, if you wanted to cross it the whole time? I still don't know what to call it. Was it emotional cheating? Was it betrayal? Or was it something more quiet, something lonelier? Was it just a woman craving to feel seen? Touched? Chosen? I didn't plan for any of it, but it happened. And now I sit with this ache, not just from what I did, but from not knowing what it truly meant. So I'm asking you, please, tell me in the comments, was I wrong? Or was I just human? Have you ever felt something that made no sense, but felt like the only thing keeping you alive? Because I need to know I'm not the only one who's felt this way. I need to know I'm not alone. And if this story reached you in any way, if it made you feel something you haven't said out loud yet, then like this video, subscribe, turn on the bell. Because here on Heartfelt Tales Unfold, we peel back the layers of the human heart, one truth at a time. And some truths aren't pretty, but they're real. Kindle closing reflection, warning or lesson, 58:31, 1 hour, narrator's voice only. Sometimes, hunger isn't for food. It's for being seen. It's for hearing someone say, I see you. Not out of obligation. Not out of duty. But out of something real. Sometimes, you go so long without feeling that when someone finally wakes that part of you up, you forget to ask if it's safe. You just feel. But the cost of one taste might be the ache that never goes away. I'll never know if David remembers that moment the way I do. If it replayed in his head the way it replays in mine. But I carry it. Like a scar I can't show. Like a secret I'll whisper to no one. But that lives just beneath my skin. And maybe some stories aren't meant to have endings. Just consequences. Just silence. Just confessions whispered into the dark.